بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، وبه نستعين على كل أمور الدنيا والدين، والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين، سيدنا وحبيبنا وشفيعنا ونور قلوبنا وقرة أعيننا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. نوينا تعلم وتعليم وتذكر وتذكير والنفع والانتفاع والإفادة والاستفادة والحث على التمسك بكتاب الله وسنة رسوله صلى الله عليه وآله وصحبه وسلم، ودعاء إلى الهدى ودلالة على الخير ابتغاء وجه الله ومرضاته وقربه وثوابه سبحانه وتعالى، مع لطف وعافية برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. اللهم إنا نسألك علم لدني وشر صافي الهني وهاب يا غني. اللهم إنا نسألك علم لدني ومشرب صافي الهني وهاب يا غني. اللهم إنا نسألك علم لدني ومشرب صافي الهني يا وهاب يا غني. اللهم صل وسلم على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. اللهم ألهمنا علما نتقي به أمرك ونواهيك، وارزقنا فهم نعلم به كيف نجيك يا أرحم الراحمين. اللهم إنا نسألك فهم النبيين وحفظ المرسلين وإلهام الملائكة المقربين في عافية يا أرحم الراحمين. اللهم أغننا بالعلم وزينا بالحلم وأكرمنا بالتقوى وجملنا بالعافية يا أرحم الراحمين. آمين. وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم. اللهم إنا نستودعك ما قرأناه وما نقرأه في هذا المجلس وما قبله وما بعده، فاحفظه علينا حتى ترده إلينا وقت احتياجنا إليه يا أرحم الراحمين. اللهم أكرمنا بالنور الفهم وأخرجنا من ظلمات الوهم، وافتح لنا أبواب رحمتك وانشر علينا حكمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. آمين. وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم. بسم الله الرحمن. اللهم يا من مقاليد الأمور كلها بيده وإليه يرجع الأمر كله، يا فتاح يا عليم، يا فتاح يا عليم، يا فتاح يا عليم، افتح علينا فتحا قريبا. وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي، وسدد لساني واهدي قلبي وافعل كذلك بأحبابي أبدا. وارزقنا كمال فتوح العارفين والفقه في الدين مع كمال الإخلاص واليقين والعافية والغنى والنصر والحفظ والنفع والانتفاع وخيرة الدارين وعالم الأولين والآخرين. آمين. وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم. الحمد لله رب العالمين. الفاتحة. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، الرحمن الرحيم، مالك يوم الدين، إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين، اهدنا الصراط المستقيم، صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. آمين 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 يا رب العالمين. الحمد لله الحمد لله الحمد لله. As we are finally continuing with this class, really apologize for the past few weeks. Sometimes it's because of the internet, sometimes because I'm just too tired, mashallah. um, especially when I'm not, not praying, like very tired. To wake up at 4 in the morning. Mashallah. Right. So I apologize now all the past weeks that there was no class, just there's no message, nothing. So there is internet, and then there was sometimes because I was too tired. Ya Allah, give us strength, inshallah. Okay, continuing. Right, so we are on the sixth hurdle, right? And we are on the famous hadith. We're on the famous hadith of Sayyidina Mu'adh bin Jabal. This is really called the famous hadith because this hadith, Imam Ghazali quotes it a lot. Like, because I think it's the one hadith that really shakes him to the core. Subhan. And it shakes us to the core too. Because it's like almost nothing can be accepted. Almost nothing is accepted by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But these are the hadiths you say, these are the hadiths of khawf. They're the hadiths of fear. And these hadiths, they exist, right, as driving factors, right, to push you, right, into not being complacent, right? And then you have the hadith of Raja, meaning the hadith of hope, right? And mashallah, yesterday I just received a message from Hababa Salma about the women. I remember I telling the children about the different types of women and their punishments in the hellfire, right? So I mean, Allahu alam as to the authenticity of the hadith, right? Of what some saw in Israel Mi'raj, right? But I saw the hadith again. How Salma sent it to me. But it came in those kind of messages whereby at the end of the message it says, "Oh, if you don't spread, something happens to you." Those kind of messages, but they have a good message, and then they have to say these kind of things, which makes me not want to spread the message. It's kind of like chain messages, where you must spread this, otherwise this will happen and that will happen. And because they say it, I don't want to spread it. But nah, this one is more. I need to go and check the authenticity of the hadith and before we spread anything. Now, so anyway, this hadith is an authentic hadith. Or it is a valid hadith. So we are at the part whereby it goes. This is where my mark is at. وتزعد الحفظة بعمل العبد وهو يزهر كما تزهر النجوم والكوكب والكوكب الدري له دوي وتسبيح بصوم وصلاة وحج وعمرة فإذا انتهوا به إلى السماء الرابعة قال الملك الموكل بها قفوا واضربوا بهذا العمل وجه صاحبه أنا الملك صاحب الإعجاب أمرني ربي ألا أدع عمله يتجاوزني إلى غيري إنه كان إذا عمل عملا أدخل العجب فيه. So this is the fourth level, and so just to do Allahumma salli ala Sayyidina Muhammad. Just to go do a refresher, right, from the first level of paradise, right? So the hadith goes that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when He created the heavens and the earth, Allah created specific angels, right? The hadith begins in that way, right? And these angels that Allah created, Allah placed them at the door of seven angels, the seven angels at the door of every level in paradise, right? And so the first one, right, it is so every door of paradise, there is an angel. So the first one, Sahibul, I must memorize again. The first one is Sahibul Ghiba. And the Sahibul Ghiba. Right. The first one checks for what? Backbiting. Okay, so if a person has done backbiting, so even though they have done all these good deeds, right, if they are backbiting, their good deeds are rejected in a sense, right, that you could see it from the side of the good deeds are being sent to those they backbite about, right? The good deeds are being sent to those they backbite about. Then the second heaven, the angel goes that I am the second heaven, right, comes the angel, right, whereby the person desires dunya. The person desires some worldly gain. Right? So a dunyawi hubbu dunya, you say hubbu dunya. So second one, there is some form of hubbu dunya, a love for this dunya that this person had, right? So then struck in the face. The third one, ana malaku sahibul kibr, right? So the one is about arrogance. So it's struck it in the face of the person. Arrogance. So now we're at the fourth one. Right? So the fourth one, right? The guardian angels that ascend with another servant's work. What it shines with radiance of the stars and the brilliant planet. Right? It includes a gentle mama, glorification of the Lord, a fast, a ritual prayer, a pilgrimage, an umrah, right? And then when they bring it to the fourth heaven, which means that it passed the first three, mashallah. It passed the first three. There was no riba done by this person. This person had no dunyawi gain that he was looking for. There was no kibr. He was not arrogant in any way towards the creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He reached the fourth level, right? And the angel says, stop. Right? The angel is telling him, stop, take this work and use it, strike its owner in his face. I am the angel in charge of bringing the seeds of Ujub, right? Ujub meaning self-pride. Is it self-pride? Self-pride. Now, self-pride, Ujub, meaning to be amazed by the self. Right, so ujub can happen without anyone knowing at all. You don't need to have people around you, right, for there to be ujub. So the entire time that Iblis, he was worshipping on the face of this earth, that he had ujub. He was not comparing himself to anybody at all, right? But he was just, so proud of himself, right, in doing that. Alhamdulillah. This is why, this is the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that He keeps showing us our flaws. Because one thing that I really and I'm amazed by in the Ihya Ulumuddin, because now so Zainab has allowed us to come every single day and learn with her Ihya Ulumuddin. Right, so every single morning, this is what's making me also very tired every day. At 6:30 in the morning, we go to her house every single day, and learn Ihya Ulumuddin for an hour. Right, so one thing Imam Ghazali mentions about the chapter on Tawbah, when chapter of Tawbah, right, whereby Allahumma salli ala Sayyidina Muhammad. Now, Imam Al-Ghazali, he mentions about how Tawbah is a station and not a hal, right? It is a maqam. It is a maqam, right? It is a station, and it's not a hal. A hal is a state, right? So, how, so in a sense that it is a station for someone to come into, to teach themselves to get to, and it's not a state that comes and goes, right? For a lot of people, tawbah becomes a state, right? Whereby, oh, they did something wrong, they go to tawbah, and they come out of it, right? So they only feel that tawbah for that moment, of regrets, and then asking Allah to forgive them. But no, tawbah is actually a station, as a station of being, right? Whereby you continuously, at every point in time in your life, you constantly see a flaw after flaw after flaw after flaw after flaw. And in fact, the more and more righteous you get, in a sense that the more and more you get closer and closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the more and more you will see all of your flaws, from before. You see more and more, you will just see more and more and more and more and more flaws. And Imam Ghazali explained the reason why is because, as you go higher and higher, in your spirituality and getting close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you become more and more aware and more knowledgeable, and you become more and more knowing of the rights of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala onto you. You become more and more, sensitive towards Allah's rights onto you. And therefore, in a higher position, closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you're able to see flaws that you could not have seen when you were on a lower position. It's like, for example, your sheikh, someone who has a teacher, spiritual guide, right? They'll be able to see your flaws that you can't see because you can't see the flaws of your station. Right? So wherever you are at in your position, you can't see your own flaws. Somebody on a higher position can see those flaws, right? Mashallah. But then when you go up higher, you look at yourself previously, you will see all the flaws now appearing, in front of you, which is why tawbah is a constant state, right? It's a constant state of being, right? Because you will always, see there's a level of ujub in there, there's a level of kibr in there, there's a level of, love of the world, there's a level of, and so on and so forth, right? Mashallah, this is why tawbah becomes constant, right? Because, if someone would say, oh, I have no kibr, I have no ujub, I have none of these diseases, right? Then you with tawbah on feeling that way. Your tawbah actually now comes because you're feeling that you are free of all these diseases. Right? You're so sincere, such a sincere person. Right. Like subhanAllah. Someone who claims sincerity for themselves, right? Or someone who claims humility for themselves. Oh, I'm so humble. Like Shah Hamza, he will say, in my humble opinion, he will say that. Like, in my humble opinion, the very fact that you saw the need to give your opinion, right? That negates any form of humility in itself, right? Because your opinion is worth mentioning, correct? Right? So the very fact that you see the need to mention your opinion. Now, mashallah, عجب كل ذي رأي رأيه برأيه. One of the signs at the end of times is that every person of opinion will be amazed by his opinion. Of the signs at the end of times. Just took the hadith yesterday, right? And Rasulullah said that عليكم بخويس أنفسكم, and on you to be, with just your family. Just stick to your family when all this happens, right? In a sense, don't mix with people already. And mashallah, if you look at our time, how people are just so amazed by their opinions online, right? They can put all kinds of opinions, and it's so amazed, right? People write entire books, right, based on their opinions, right? La hawla wa la quwwata illa billah. Alhamdulillah for our scholars, who write entire books based on the haqq, right? Based on truth, right? And fact, right? Whereas there are people out there who write entire books, based on just opinion. Opinion weighs nothing. Subhanallah, right? What we want is fact, right? We want haqq. So anyway, so why tauba, right? The first, not the first hurdle, the second hurdle. The hurdle of tauba, that we took in this book, right? Is throughout. You'll be doing repentance over and over and over and over again. So he says here, I am the angel of vain conceit, of Rajab, and my Lord has commanded me, right, to not allow anyone to go by me, to other than me, right? And that this person, that when he has done a deed, he is proud of it, right? He's proud in himself, right, of his deeds that he does. Subhanallah, right? So, subhanallah, there was a story, about, there was a story whereby there was a young boy, right, and he notices that his father, wakes up in the night and performs the night prayer, right? So he began to push himself to wake up in the night and perform the night prayer, right? So when he was doing this, there was one night, and he began doing it, and he would wake up with his father, and he perform a night prayer next to his father. So while he was doing this one night, he, after finish praying, right, he turns to his father and he says to his father, Alhamdulillah, Abba, we are the only ones in this whole house who wakes up at night. Everybody else is fast asleep. They don't wake up at night. Right? Oh, Ujab there. Right. So amazement of by the self. Right. And the father turned to him and he said, I did not teach you to wake up in the night to look down on other people. Right? You're not taught. This is not my teaching of you. I didn't teach you to do this, to look down on other people. It's because you wake up in the night. To keep yourself in check. Right? So mashallah. So to correct them. And this is a very important part of tarbiyah. Very, very important part of tarbiyah. That to not allow for them, to find any way, or form, to increase the, to push yourself up, to increase yourself. It's like saying Habib Abu Bakr al-Adani and al-Darus. He's the son of Habib al-Darus al-Akbar. He is Sahib al-Adan. He's basically years ago. His video say years ago. Hundreds of years ago. He's from the early starter of the Bali. Right. So, his father, Habib al-Darus, Habib al-Darus al-Akbar, like so his son wanted to go and seek knowledge, right? Seek knowledge. So he said to his son, I'm going to test you first and see if you are fit, right, to go and seek knowledge. Right. So he said to his son, go out and bring back something that is worse than you. Okay, go out and bring back something that is worse than you. So he goes out and he looks and he searches the entire marketplace. He searches. He could not find a single person, right, whom he truly saw as worse than him. If he saw someone who was a young person, he would say, oh, this person did not commit as many sins as I have committed. This is what Imam Ghazali has spoken also. Then he saw an elderly person, he would say, oh, this person has done more acts of obedience than me. because he's older. When he saw a disbeliever, he said to himself, this person, Allah could honor him with tawbah, and then he could become a true Muslim and ascend so high, right? In Allah, in close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and so on and so forth. So every person that he met, right, he could think of how this person is better than him. So eventually he said, oh, halas, I can't find anyone who is better than me. So on his way back to go back to his father, he saw by the side of the road, a dead dog, a dead carcass of a dog. So he said, I found something that's worse than me, like what could be worse than the carcass of a dog. Right? So he was contemplating on taking it back, to show that it is something that was worse than him. Right? But then it occurred to him, if when the day of judgment comes, right? If he does not make it to paradise, and then like he falls into the hellfire. And this dog, right, all that's gonna happen to this dog is that Allah's gonna bring the dog back to life, right? For qisas, right, for retribution, right? To get all fairness, right, all justice, all justice served. Right, the judgment is happens for every animal. That every creature will get their due in justice, right? And then Allah will turn all the creatures or all the animals, right, and of the dunya, right, they will all be turned into dust, right? So they have no reality beyond that, right? They just be turned into dust because they are part of this dunya, right? And they have no reality into the next world, right? Except that they will qisas, right? They will seek retribution and they will seek justice. Okay, then you'll be turned into dust and then khalas. And that is why the end of the surah, in Surah An-Naba, the kafir will say, Ya laytani kuntu turaba, if only I was dust. Right? Because they will see that the animals being turned into dust, right? And then the kafir will be like, oh, if only I could be turned into dust and not enter into the hellfire that I am facing. So Habib Abu Bakr Adani al-Darus, right, he said that, he said that, if I enter into the hellfire and this dog becomes dust eventually, then the dog is better than me, right? The dog is better than me. Right? So khalas, he has not found anything that is better than him. So he goes back to his father and says, father, oh father, I couldn't find a single thing in the marketplace that was better than me. And the father said, now you are fit to go and study knowledge. Now you are fit. Right? You have no amazement in your heart. You have no arrogance in your heart. Now you can take knowledge. Now, mashallah. So anyway, alhamdulillah. Okay, then they keep continuing and they keep going on. So the guardian angels وتسعد الحفظة بعمل عبد يزف كما تزف العروس إلى أهلها حتى إذا انتهوا إلى السماء الخامسة بذلك العمل الحسن من جهاد والحج له ضوء كضوء الشمس فيقول الملك الموكل أنا الملك صاحب الحسد إنه كان يحسد الناس على ما أتاهم الله من فضله فقد سخط ما رضي الله وأمرني ربي ألا أدع عمله ليجاوزني إلى غيري. Right, so then he reaches the fifth level, and the guardian angels there, right? The guardian angels are ascending with the work, and it's paraded. Like Zaf is like an entire procession. There's a full bridal procession that is paraded, that is carried in procession to her bridegroom, as if it's so beautified and broad, and so many angels are coming, and they are celebrating and celebrating because this deed actually makes it past the first four. Right? Then when they finally, a jihad, a pilgrimage, a visitation, an umrah, right, shining, when they finally reach the fifth heaven, bearing that good work consisting of, jihad and hajj and umrah, and it's shining like the sun, the angel on duty says, right, stop, I am the angel of envy. He used to envy people for what Allah had given them from his gracious favor. He was displeased with that which pleased Allah. Like my Lord has commanded me to not allow his work to pass beyond me to another gatekeeper. Like astaghfirullah al-azim. Like so with hasad. And I'm gonna keep going back to Zainab's lessons. And of the tawbah, right? Because these are all sins, these are all al-muhlikat, these are all traits that destroy a human being, right? So definitely we will go into tawbah, right, into all of these things, right? So this. So now he has envy, right? And Imam al-Ghazali, he mentions in the chapter on tawbah in the book of assistance, in the book of in Ihya al-Muddin, right? He said that and we also need to make tawbah of every single time, right? We show a lack of contentment of Allah's decree, right? Even if it's a slight feeling in the heart, whereby you think, how come she's so much more, beautiful than me, or it's like a slight whisper in the heart, or like, her life is so happy, right? Unlike me, or it's something slight in the heart, and you didn't act upon it. It just came to your heart. Oh, there should be tawbah on that. And that should have tawbah. Right. So slight, mashallah. And Imam Ghazali says, for things that you aggrandize, that you raise besides Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and or also things that you rely on besides Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. All of these, thoughts and feelings in the heart, right? That you aggrandize someone, or you aggrandize something, or you place something high on a pedestal in your heart, or you rely on something, or you rely on an asbab, you rely on a means, you rely on, even if it's a tiny bit of reliance, right? All of this requires what? Requires tawbah, right? Because you're being distracted from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Right? You keep looking at people, you keep looking at things, you keep looking at all things irrelevant in your existence. They're actually irrelevant, right? Because your existence is what? You and your Lord. And that was what Imam al-Haddad said about Habib Abdul Rahman al-Ghattas. I know Habib Umar bin Abdul Rahman al-Ghattas. Right? Imam al-Haddad said, when he was asked, can you describe Habib Umar bin Abdul Rahman al-Ghattas? And he said, Huwa Rabb wal Qalb. Huwa Rabb wal Qalb. Right? He is his Lord and his heart. That's all he is. He is his Lord and his heart. He's not distracted by all kinds of things going on around him. And that's our biggest problem, It's our biggest problem. We keep we're always so distracted by everything and everyone, every issue, and can you imagine, is someone is in a constant state of, in a constant maqam, position of tawbah, meaning you're always repenting on looking at other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, on focusing on other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? On being obsessed with something that is other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If you keep doing tawbah on this, right, you will be such a a strengthened human being. Can you imagine? You'll be such a strengthened human being that nothing in this fleeting world bothers you. It's amazing, mashallah. This is the level that Tawbah can bring you to. Because Tawbah keeps giving you this red light, right? This intibah, this red light. You know what? You're feeling upset about something because you're not focused. You're not focused on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You know what? You're having all these, emotions going on in you because why? You're distracted. Right? You're distracted from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And so on and so forth. This will keep, like tawbah cleanses you. And this is what it's supposed to be. It's a cleansing. And tawbah is a cleansing. And but it purifies you, mashallah. It's so, I'm so amazed by my morning lessons. Yesterday I was saying to her, because she makes us read the passage before we come. And I said to her, Zaza, I read it before I come. And I don't understand a single thing in what I'm reading. Which is why I don't dare teach Al-Muddin, because that passerby, I have no clue what Imam Ghazali is saying. I'm reading it, and like, I don't know what he's saying. And then when I come home, how about this class, like, it's so clear, right? It's so obviously clear, like what he's saying, to the point that I said to Ustazah, I wondered to myself, how come I didn't get it? How come when I read it, I didn't get it? Why wasn't I understanding it from before? And only when I come for her class, and I'm like, oh yeah, it makes so much sense. And it is clear, the words are clear. Like, how come I didn't know before? But mashallah, the way she explains it, the way she, opens it up and everything. But mashallah. So this person has envy, right? Meaning he's doing something so lowly. Right? He's doing all these good deeds, he's not backbiting anyone, he's not working for the dunya, he's not arrogant, he's not have self-pride, but he's looking all around him and just comparing himself with everybody else. And comparing himself not in a healthy way. A healthy way will be admiration. Right? If you want to compare yourself with other people, they can go the way of admiration. Right? You admire them, you want to be like them, you strive harder, you make dua, you be like them. Alhamdulillah, that's called ghibta. Ghibta is admiration. Right? But if you want to compare to other people, then you're gonna have all this envy, this discontentment, all this, hasad. It's such an ugly, ugly emotion. Right? But how many people have this? Right? And the fact that people in our so many people are engaged in black magic. So, it's so disgusting. Right? So la hawla wa la quwwata illa billah. But it just shows how petty human beings are. So petty. Because all that you need to do is focus on your path to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You focus on your path. Right? Whatever has come to you in this dunya, that's your health. That is your portion, that's your health. If you're dunya, that's your portion. Khalas, don't waste your time looking at what Allah gave to other people. You are not questioned about what Allah gave to other people. You're only going to be questioned on what Allah gave to you. And if you're going to waste your time comparing everybody else, then you have fallen into the tricks of shaitan. Now, let's keep going. The angels going up, right? So to now the next level. So this guy now, this the next deed from a person has passed all the first 5 levels. Now going on to the 6th level, right? What does الحفظة بعمل عبدي بضوء تام وصلاة كثيرة وصيام وحج وعمرة فتجاوزون به إلى السماء السادسة فيقول الملك الموكل بالباب أنا صاحب الرحمة اضربوا بهذا العمل وجه صاحبه إنه كان لا يرحم إنسانا قط وإن أصيب عبد شمت به وأمرني ربي ألا أدع عملا يتجاوزني إلى غيري. تمام. Allah, ya Allah, this is the sixth level. So this next deed actually goes past for the first 5. It makes it past the first 5. Right. So the guardian angels that ascend with another 7's work, consisting of the perfect ablution. Oh, so not as the wudu itam, right? With the perfect wudu, right? And a lot of salat and fasting and pilgrimage and umrah and so on, right? And you see, what is being mentioned here of the deeds is this ascending are very good deeds and very high deeds. In fact, the compulsory deeds, you're saying, right? So then when they pass on to the 6th heaven, the angel on duty of the gate says, I am the angel in charge of mercy. Right? Take this and use it to strike its owner in the face. He never treated any human being with mercy. And if a servant was afflicted, right, he would gloat over his misfortune. La hawla wa la quwwata illa billah. Right, he would gloat over his misfortune. My Lord has commanded me to not allow his hope to pass beyond me to another gatekeeper. La hawla wa la quwwata illa billah. Right, so someone who has no mercy for other, someone who so this person has gone past the first 6, right? The first 5. He's not backbiting. He is not looking for dunya. He's not arrogant. He's not proud of himself in himself. He's not envious of anyone. Oh, but he has absolutely no mercy on anyone around him. Right. And this is the thing about it, for us to have mercy on everyone, especially people who are far from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. These are the the people who deserve or who need, actually, in fact, they need the most mercy on them. Sinners, right? People who are terrible sinners. They are the ones who need the most mercy on them, because it is by mercy that they come to the path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, by mercy. So when people do not treat them with mercy, when they've done all these sins, and they are faced with all kinds of aggression, all kinds of what do you call this, hostility, right, from the people, this would push them away from acts of obedience, right? But rather, you want to come to them and you want to treat them with mercy. And that is what is important, inshallah. Right? So to come to people who are sinners, especially sinners, right, with mercy. Because on the day of judgment, right? On the day of judgment, where do you think, who are the people most who need the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Right? Who are the people who most need the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Right? Those who are those who are uh, 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 deserving of the hellfire, correct? Those who are deserving of the hellfire, they are the ones who need the most mercy from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because they need forgiveness, they need acceptance, they need and so on and so on. Right? So this begins in the dunya. Right? The people who need the most mercy are the ones who are sinning all the time. And that is how you pull people onto the path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? By taking on this divine traits of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? The trait of mercy. I see Habib Abdul Qadir As-Sagaf, the story about him, whereby there was once he was in a majlis, and his students were there, the normal students were there, the regular students, right? And a man who was known for his for his sins, was known for his sins, right, came to the majlis. And this man was dressed in a way that was, unbecoming, right, to come to the majlis. He was wearing very tight pants, very tight shirt, right? He was just, he just walked in to the majlis. So Habib Abdul Qadir As-Sagaf, he saw this man, and he got up, and he called the man to him, and he welcomed the man, and he said to the man, come, sit next to me, right? Come here, and he was very warm towards this person. This person is well known in the town as a sinner, right? A terrible sinner. So he sat the man down with him, and so on. And the students were all just very curious about what's going on. And they were learning fiqh, right? They were just studying fiqh. Right? But Abdul Qadir As-Sagaf, right, he began speaking all about charity, right? All about sadaqah, right? Charity, all the hadiths about charity and all the virtues of charity and all the, subhanAllah. He kept doing that. Right? And then after the class, the man left. The next day, right, the man came back and he was a transformed individual. He was wearing a jubba, he had his kufiya on, his sonko, he had a siwa and so on. It's a change in the individual. People were just amazed, right? They saw this is one day transformation of this person, and then when he came in, Habib was continuing with his class on fiqh, right? So when the man left the second day, he turned to his students and he said to his students, I'm sure you're wondering what's going on, how this thing, what was going on. And he said, well, this man, as we all know, he is well known for his sins. But yesterday when he came, Allah allowed me to see into his heart. Like, this is how the awliya, right? You can always see into their heart. And they can always see into your heart. So they always say in the Tarim, right? Don't you dare harbor some negative emotion in your heart, right? When you meet anyone in Tarim, right? Because they can look right into your heart. Mashallah. Right? So anyway, he said that this man, when he came to the majlis yesterday, Allah allowed me to see into his heart. And he was feeling really low about himself. Right? He saw no goodness in himself. That he was such a filthy sinner. Right? That he was feeling that way when he stepped into the majlis. And Habib Abdul Qadir As-Sagaf said, and I know a secret of his. In that this man, even though he's a terrible sinner, he does give charity, and his charity is abundant, and his charity is secret. No one knows about his charity. Everyone knows about his sin, but no one knows about his charity that he does. It's all between him and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So I wanted to grow that, I wanted to, to expand that in the heart of the man, right? For the man to see that there is goodness in him. He has goodness, right? So therefore I spoke about charity, and this grew as a light in the heart of the man, that he saw, right, that he has hope. There is hope in his heart, right? And that put him on the path, right? That put him on the path to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Mashallah, right? So, so you see that, Abu Bakr as-Siddiq, right? He had mercy on the man, right? The man that came, he had mercy on the man, right? And to have mercy on the sinner is really to see the person in the light of the Prophet, in the prophetic light. These are human beings who are struggling, with themselves, they're struggling with their sins, like they're struggling, right? Let them, have a rope to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala by which they can hold on to and come to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Don't you be that person who cuts off people's ropes to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You have no position to do that. Right? It's not your duty to cut off people's ropes, right? But to actually tell them they have a rope to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They have a rope, right? To Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Right. So there was another story about another man, right, whereby a Habib, he was traveling, and there were some highway robbers, right? They cut off the caravan, right, and then they robbed the caravan. So while the robbers were eating the food, of the people of the caravan, this Habib, he looked and he saw that the chief, of this highway robbers, right, the group of highway robbers, he was standing by the side, not doing anything. And he asked the chief, "Aren't you gonna like join them in their meal?" And then the robber says, "No, I'm not gonna join them because I'm fasting." And the Habib is amazed. He's like, "Huh? You're fasting? And you're doing all this like robbery?" And then the guy says, the chief says, "Yes, I don't want it that I have no rope to Allah. So I maintain this fast. That perhaps this fast will push me one day to change my ways." Much interesting. He was seeing in that way. He wanted to keep a rope, right, between him and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Okay, let them have their rope. And inshallah, it will push them out of their sins. And that's the answer to the question by the side here. Someone asked how to show mercy to even or even want to be near a sinner, such as a homosexual who insists that it's their right to choose the sexual orientation, married to their partner, living their husband and wife in their own home, displaying charity to, and there's other good deeds, right? You know what? There is no other way to help them tawbah except through mercy. You gotta see it that way. You have to see it that way. That the mercy that comes here is that this person is so blinded by their shahawat, right, by their sexual orientation, they have become slaves to the shahawat. Right? And so the mercy here is that this person
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والعصر إن الإنسان لفي خسر إلا الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك صلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم الحمد لله رب العالمين. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.